Hello and welcome to PodRocket. I'm Kate, the producer of PodRocket. With me hosting today is Noel. Hello, Noel. How's it going?
Good. How are you, Kate?
Good. Thanks for joining us. And our guest today is Kshitij Gupta Kshitij Gupta, CEO and co-founder at 100MS. Hello, how are you doing?
Hey folks, hey Kate, hey Noel.
Thanks for joining us today. So if you can just get started telling us a little about what is 100MS and your work that you've been doing on it.
Absolutely. So, little bit about myself also, because kind of 100MS is something which we started as a co-founder. I started as a co-founder. So, I mean, before starting 100MS, I used to work for Disney Plus Hotstar as a video engineer. My job was to keep video working for Disney Plus Hotstar. And before that, I used to work for Facebook, and my job was there to kind of build infrastructure for Facebook Live. So I've been working with video infra for quite a long time. And when we started 100MS, the sole objective was 100MS was to kind of provide the same infrastructure which big companies have internally, but like startups or other developers who are not video developers, they kind of struggle to get that kind of infrastructure. So our sole aim is to kind of democratize access to those kind of APIs, so that every developer in the world should be able to make video applications like pretty fast.
Nice, very cool. So, I mean, maybe just to help listeners understand a little bit better, what is 100MS offering to a developer? Like, who would the typical customer be?
So anybody who wants to embed video, and we have started with video conferencing as a piece, but in general, we want to kind of encourage anything in the video. So if I take any developer who want to build a video conferencing inside their own application, like we're doing right now in the studio, right? Similarly, if any, so let's say take for example an ed tech company who is doing online education, so they want a video interface for their student and teacher, or take for example a telemedicine app or a dating app, right? All of these applications need a embedded video experience inside their app. um, right now what they're doing, a lot of them are doing is they are giving out links inside their application to go to a Zoom or a Google Meet, but that kind of like the moment you leave the app, you have lost your user, right? And these companies want to embed it inside their application. That is what we're offering as a service.
Nice, very cool. Yeah. That my next question was going to be like, I feel like the typical pattern is people send out Zoom links. Is there, um, are there other cool features that 100MS offers that I guess empowers developers to like make that video experience more rich, more like featureful?
So Noel, maybe I can come to features, I think, but I'll the typical journey of a developer is that like Google Meet and Zoom has worked really hard to make video work, right? So all of the problem with video is like video is a magical thing which works, and a lot of us don't know how it works basically, right? And the problem is that the moment you start developing over it, the first roadblock you hit is the video quality problem. Like you were saying right now, that video will freeze in between. It's okay, right? Right. So what happens is the features usually are at a kind of a second level thing. The first level thing is make my video work with high reliability. I think that is the first step. And if you kind of try to do it yourself, it's easily 6 months figuring out what kind of settings should I be using for the bitrate for the video, right? It's okay. What is the corollary I can give? Something similar to a payment gateway, Noel, right? Like payment gateways sound trivial, but when you say okay, forex conversion, split payments, and whatnot, right? All of these things make it super complicated. Everybody wants payment, but very few companies in the world build payment. It is similar to that instead of the features. Um, Having said that, the other features which we typically see are recording. So like one of the things you are also doing is recording, and I think Kate is doing a local recording, but a lot of customers says I want a cloud recording. So let's say somehow Kate's machine gets disconnected, it should the recording should still be preserved, right? The other thing which people request for is, let's say three of us are talking right now, right? Can this be broadcasted live to a YouTube or a Facebook, right? That's those are the other features, right? And beyond that, it is a lot about interactivity. So a student in a classroom, teacher will say, can we have a whiteboard? A doctor and a patient might say, I want to embed my IoT device which is measuring the temperature, can you do that somehow, right? So it's more about that every vertical, you need to have that integration for that vertical.
Yeah. I think that's kind of what I was getting at more with my question was like those integrations that are vertical specific, like ways that kind of close connection with other features of the app is often lost when you have to like click out into a Zoom link or go to a Hangouts call or something like that. Yeah, so it's super cool. I was looking at the 100ms kind of program, like the APIs and how you can use them before I jumped on, and it did seem pretty intuitive. It kind of back to your point made me feel how I felt the first time I was like going through Stripe's APIs, and it was like I understand the elegance here. This is an exercise in like edge case handling that I don't want to have to figure out all of this myself. Yeah, so that makes a lot of sense to me. You touched upon something interesting there, which was how much work it would be to do this like in house for these teams that are trying to do it. On like I understand the appeal of that for something like payments processing. It is hard to build all of that logic in house, right? But for something like video, it seems slightly different than payments processing, because I feel like video and broadcasting and sharing is like more of a technical problem, where payments processing is, but it's also like a legal and more of a business problem that's hard to overcome. So the value prop is evident there. But we see these other technologies like WebRTC, and then like things built on WebRTC, like Pure.js. There's a couple others in that space that are trying to make that easier for devs to kind of spin up themselves. Do you think that there's shortcomings of that kind of new wave of peer-to-peer video that are still going to like pose challenges for devs trying to stand that up in-house?
It actually depends on use case to use case, Noel, right? So if only two people are talking to each other, PRJS is great, right? It works pretty good. Although there was right. So I mean, although there are some kind of still problems if you want to record and all that, right? Typically, what we have seen is that things break when you want to scale up. So imagine a 10 people conference, right? In a 10 people conference, what is happening is you are maintaining connection with nine other people. Everybody is maintaining connection with nine other people, right? So so that means you are uploading your video nine times over those peer connections, right? And that's that does not scale well, right? It basically consumes a lot of networking usage. It consumes a lot of CPU, right? So typically, what we have seen is when you have to optimize these things, that means you have to push things on the server side, right? And the moment you go on the server side, that is when it start becoming more and more complex.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. I guess that probably leads to another good question of is 100ms better suited? I guess in my head I kind of categorize like video technology into two camps. It's like small groups where everyone's talking to everyone, like 1 to 10 people, and then like more of a broadcast setting, like for conference talks and stuff like that. Is 100ms better suited for one of those, or does it handle both pretty well?
Yeah. So thank you for asking that question, Noel. Right. So let me just rephrase that question. Right. So you're saying what use cases 100ms is best used for? Is it more for broadcasting, or is it more for the conferencing? And so Noel, there is a slightly nuanced answer here, right? So what we have figured out is the size of the room depends on your use case. So I'll give you some examples. So and I'll take only one example and keep extending it. Let's take the EdTech example. The simplest use case is a teacher talking to student, one on one. Then the next example comes is a teacher talking to 10 students, right? The moment it goes beyond 10 or even let's say 50 students, what happens is then it kind of becomes one way or a webinar kind of style of conferencing, right? Even beyond that, so let's say these edtech companies, sometimes they try to get a star teacher to build their top of the funnel product, right? Like where they're trying to do a free session with a star teacher and want to broadcast it to like 100,000 people, right? So typically what we have seen is a lot of companies start want to start with this small use case, but it ends up becoming bigger and bigger and bigger, right? WebRTC starts breaking after a certain limit. So if you go beyond 1,000, so that's why Zoom does not allow beyond 1,000 people.
Right. Right.
So what we have done is we have actually merged the streaming and conferencing together, and we are now allowing developers to basically kind of move from streaming to being on stage seamlessly via APIs. Again, there is a latency difference. So on the when you are streaming, there is a latency of 10 seconds, while when you are talking to each other in real time, the latency is less than 1 second.
Gotcha. So is that? I mean, I'm not sure how deep into the tech we can get here, but is there a handoff that happens on your guys' side technically when you go from kind of these like smaller peer to peer esque groups to something more broadcast oriented? To like, does the server become like the hub when you hit some threshold, or does that happen right away?
There are two, so we call it circles, Noel, right? Let me give
Okay,
you that concept of circles first. the
sure.
first the first circle is what we are doing right now, talking to each other
Hmm.
bi-directionally.
Yeah.
Okay, and this basically this breaks somewhere at the limit of 100. That beyond 100 it becomes super complex to deal with. Then there is another circle which we call it as circle 2. Imagine we are talking here, and let's say 1,000 more people want to, or 10,000 more people want to listen to us, which is a clubhouse model. If you think about it, what happens in a clubhouse? There is a stage, right, which is the circle 1, and then there is a circle 2, which is the listeners still listening in real time, where they can raise hand and can move to become a speaker at any given point. So that's the circle 2. And then there is a circle 3. Circle 3 means that this setup, or think of it as an auditorium, right? So auditorium has a stage, auditorium has certain people who are sitting in the auditorium, and there is a circle 3, which is, imagine people watching on their TVs, which is higher latency, right? So this is the concept we have kind of now put it in the APIs, where the server is taking care of all the multiplexing and sending streams to these people, but we have left the, what do you say, the business logic to the app. And and apps are using it in very interesting ways. So like we were talking to one of the event companies, and they said, you know what, we have a concept of a front row ticket and a regular ticket. If you're watching a show, so the
Hmm.
front row ticket is circle 2 and a regular ticket is circle 3.
Gotcha. Nice. So are these circles something that like the developer that's developing against 100ms has to think about, or is this just kind of out of the box?
It is completely out of the box,
Gotcha.
right?
Gotcha.
The way you define is, we have something called a template, where you go define these roles as templates. So you can say something called a stage, a viewer, and let's say an overflow room. So stage is circle 1, viewer is circle 2, and a overflow room is the circle 3. And it's actually now in your terminology. So when you join a room, you can say, I want to join as a stage person, or I want to join as a viewer person.
Hmm. Got it. I guess maybe to help me paint a clearer picture and for our listeners then. So is there a UI layer which 100ms is providing, or am I getting like raw objects that I can then kind of put in my page however I want? I could like rename things and give it labels.
There is no UI layer which 100ms provides. So UI
Okay, gotcha.
UI UI is given as an example code, but
Hmm.
everything is abstracted in APIs. And for web, we have done a React store as well with hooks and all that stuff.
Nice, very cool. So even if I did end up using the terminology for these circles that you gave me out of the box, I could still like put whatever label on them I wanted in the
Absolutely.
UI, and it wouldn't hurt anything. Got it.
Yes.
Got it. Very cool. Cool. So yeah, that sounds like a very like an intuitive kind of way to lay out the design of video conferences that scale from small groups to like giant broadcast 1,000-person events. Did your background and history kind of lead you to this architecture, or did you have that in mind when you started, or did it come about over time?
So the background helped
Mhm.
because I knew of the streaming world at Facebook. We were doing the only the Circle 3,
Gotcha.
right? At
Right.
100 MS
Yeah.
when we started, we were only doing Circle 1, right? But
Hmm.
as and when we spoke to these customers, right? The customers are like, can we do this, can we do that? And as of now I have to use two different SDKs to do this. Let's say if I have to talk to each other, I will have to use pair.js or something else, right? But if I have to build a streaming out, then I have to use something else, right? And handling these two SDKs is becoming, making it more complicated. It's not reliable that way, right? That's where we heard our developers and we said, okay, let's combine it together.
Right. Nice. Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. Was there let me think how to phrase this. Was there like specific problems that you guys encountered when designing the SDK and the APIs now to account like to make it conducive to these like multiple circles? Like is it hard to design around that problem where you might have some clients who are like in a slightly longer latency and they're kind of acting as more of a just like a broadcastee versus someone who is like in the conversation, a broadcaster or in circle one?
Can you maybe substantiate with an example or something?
Yeah, I'm just trying to think. If I'm a developer and I'm writing code to handle these cases, I could foresee instances where I might care if a user is in circle 3 versus circle 1 because like their user experience may be different. Is that something that's hard to design APIs around, or is it easy for me as a developer to determine which circle a user's in and make decisions accordingly for my app?
That's what I Noel, I said basically what happens is we allow you to define something called roles,
Hmm. Gotcha.
right? And as roles, so let's take the example of stage, or actually we can take the example of here, right? In here we had something called a green room, right? Where you first join the green room, right? Where you're getting prepped and whatnot. So let's say you have a green room. In a green room you are still not. So let's take the roles, right? In this tool, you have a green room, you have a stage. So maybe let's say whatever we are talking right now is a stage. There could be viewers, or call them, let's say, viewers in real time, and then viewers on streaming. So let's say there are four roles, right? And we allow you to define these roles using APIs and as well as dashboard, where you say in the green room only people in green room will be able to see each other. The stage people will not be able to see the green room, neither do the viewers, right? When you are on stage, the green room will be able to see you because the green room wants to figure out that when is my entry time,
Gotcha. Yeah.
right?
Cool. Hmm.
So this is what we say. So and so since we are allowing you to define your own roles, it's your business logic. You already know which circle is what.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So functionally, I don't like as a developer need to care about the app like dynamically switching people in and out of those roles as they do, or in and out of those circles as they do it. For me, it's just like I can move users between roles. Everything else is handled like kind of elegantly behind the scenes.
I wish we had a screen share here and I would have shown you the demo.
Yeah, no, that's okay. That's okay. We'll do our best here. Yeah, yeah. I think we're painting a pretty good picture. Um, Cool. So I guess kind of from there, while we're in the nuance of APIs here, maybe we could delve a little bit more into how integration actually works. If somebody wants to start, trying to implement video conferencing or video chat into their app, what is the minimum I need to do to kind of get a simple web conference spun up in my web app?
So it takes, I would say, less than 5 minutes to build a video conference, right? So all you do is you sign up on an MS. Either you, if it's just a video conference, we have a pre-built template already available. So you choose that video template, and voila, I mean, in 5 minutes you're done, right? In case you have a slightly little complicated use case, like we said, the green room and the viewers and whatnot, since we are allowing you to change that template, so the step is first you build that template, like you define. So think of a Docker basically, right? So you're defining your like you define the Docker, that I need a web server, I need a database, right? Similarly, you basically configure your video application saying, I need XYZ roles. Do I need recording or not? Right? Do I need it to be streamed? Do I need to RTMP out to a YouTube or whatnot? Right? All of these things you define on a dashboard. So that's what we are calling a template. And once you have defined this, I would say 80 to 90% of your logic is already defined in the SDK. And now what is left for you is to design your UI,
Gotcha.
right? And
Mhm.
leave a large part of the implementation just to the SDK, because think of it this way now, right? So let's say you have designed a green room, right? And the
Mhm.
way green room is designed is on the top right, it shows the stage,
Yep.
and below it's basically all the people in the green room, they can also talk to each other, right? So
Mhm.
you design your UI, and within that UI in the SDK, all you have to do is you instantiate the template, and then you say join as green room role.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Nice. Cool.
And when you join as green room role, the SDK will give you all the callbacks. Okay, within green room you are supposed to see these videos, so as a callback we'll give you all those video pointers, as well as all the information that who are all the people, are they muted or not. All that information is given to you as callbacks or the hooks basically.
Got it. Got it. Are those so? Yeah. If they're callbacks or hooks, are these all strictly like talking to a client side SDK? If I had server events that needed to happen when somebody clicked a button, is there a way that that call happens, or does my client need to relay that back to my server?
For the server events, we have something called webhooks.
Gotcha. Sure.
So
Gotcha. And, go ahead.
yeah, so anything you're interested to know on the server side, we can kind of send you webhooks to your server side.
Nice, nice. Okay, that's an easy answer. I can handle those cases pretty elegantly. I think. Okay, the last piece then that I need to get a full of to fully grasp this, I think, is like the authentication piece. How does 100ms know who is who when they like connect via the SDK?
Thank you for asking that question. So it's really very simple. Once you have defined, actually I missed that point. Once you define these roles, people will join the application first, right? They will be authenticating with their password or phone number or whatever, basically, right? Once they're authenticated, the host application knows this person is who. They already know whether this is a teacher or a student or green room or whatever role, right? You basically create a JWT token, put that role inside that, and to 100ms, you're passing that JWT token. So the role is embedded inside the JWT token. SDK now knows that which role are you, and it's a JWT token, so we know people cannot tamper it with. Basically, the JWT token is created by the customer server.
Got it. Got it. So I create a JWT. I put the role information in there. Pass to the client. Client passes it up to 100ms server.
Correct.
You guys know who is who. Is there any additional info in that JWT that I can send? Like, is all configuration done via that JWT, or is there like additional info that's just sent? Like as part of the payload, the body.
There is one more thing you can send in the JWT. You can send your own user ID.
Got it.
So whenever we call webhooks, right? Or whenever, let's say, on your other interface, you might have something called your avatar, let's say,
Right.
right? So you need to look up in your own database. Uh, and since 100ms is the one who's transferring this information of the role and the ID to you, we have two IDs. One is a 100ms ID, and one is the
Mm-hmm.
application ID, which is also given in the JWT.
Gotcha. So yeah, I guess okay. So the use case now that I'm thinking of is say we have like avatars, right, for each user, and they can set their own avatar up. If I want to display those avatars to users when 100ms connects them as a peer, do, do am I able to do that on the client with just the data that 100ms is providing me, or do I need to then on each client use the like ID of my peer that 100ms just gave me and go back to my server to figure out what that avatar should be?
Both ways are possible, Noel.
Gotcha.
So,
Okay.
so we have a mechanism called a peer metadata.
Cool.
And what you do is when I join, at that time, I will fetch the DWT token as well as any other information you want to put. Could be your avatar or whatever information, right? All that information, if you give it to us along with the JWT token, we set it as a metadata on your peer. And whenever that peer joins, all that information is available to all the other people in the call. That is one method. Other method is you just give us the ID, and on the ID you look up in your own database. But most people actually are preferring the peer version because peer version is only one fetch.
Gives a call. Yeah.
It saves multiple calls because otherwise, if there are 100 people in the call, there will be 99 calls.
Per user. Yeah. 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 Very cool. Very cool. Nice. Cool. Well, thank you for going down like way into the weeds there a little bit with me. I appreciate it. Yeah. Yeah. We got pretty low there. Yeah. Let's come out a little bit. I feel like my first introduction to 100ms was like a couple of months ago, probably at this point, when one of my coworkers sent me a link to your guys' like Vercel template that was going out for like hosting a conference. Can you talk a little bit about that? Like what that is as a product and your story to getting it built?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So this actually idea, and I must thank Vercel for giving us continued support on that. I think actually they only encouraged us to build that. So what happened is I was looking at the Vercel templates, and they had these two, three templates which were like at the top, right? Like one was e-commerce, and one of them was the events template. But the events template was only a like if you click and deploy it, it's actually a YouTube video which plays. And so we spoke to Vercel team and we were like, can we extend it, right? How about we extend it to actually make it like a hop-in clone, right? And that's how that discussion started. We got a few kind of open source contributors also kind of being excited about that, and that's that whole journey which got started. And it is actually pretty exciting to us because now we are thinking that this is a good GTM strategy because a- as you can understand that to make people understand or developers understand what is possible, the best way is examples,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
templates are great examples. And if
Hmm.
templates can be production ready, then yeah, I mean you start with a template and modify it to your heart basically.
Nice. Yeah. Very cool. Very cool. Is there like um, what did that collaboration look like? You touched on it a little bit when you reach out to Versa, like, hey, can we make this a little more feature rich and enhance it? Once you know gotten the answer there, was it like pretty easy to work with them? Did you guys just kind of make pull requests and they give you feedback and you merge them, or what did that experience look like?
It was pretty amazing. I mean, so they basically said you own this repository now. Go extend it, basically. So there was another company which was already there. It was I think Dato CMS, one of the CMS companies. So basically, Vercel folks said, okay, go figure out basically. First, give us a design. Let's first work on a design, agree on a design. So we kind of worked on a design first. We all of us agreed on a design. We spoke to the Data CMS team also that okay, if we are changing these interfaces, how would you, because in the interface now in the CMS we had to have a flag whether it's a YouTube screen, because there are multiple stages, stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, and we said okay, let's have the configurability that one of the stages can be made a real-time stage, another stage could still remain a YouTube stage, right? So we had to kind of talk to the Data CMS guys to how to do that and all that stuff. Once we kind of finalized the design as well as the interfaces, it was development that was pretty quick because our team developing it on 100ms. So that was pretty quick. I think the longest time which took was Vercel team has a extremely sharp eye on details,
Mm, yeah.
right? And we are very thankful for that, right? And they're
Hmm.
like, can we change this a little bit? And we're like, yeah, we keep doing that. But I mean, that was the longest part, by the way, to finish it to that perfection level.
Yeah. Nice, nice. That's awesome. Yeah, I'm sure that this tail end of that was a little bit nuanced, but I guess I'm glad you guys are able to like, integrate with that platform and provide an example in that context, so like a dev can go and like click a button and get a whole app spun up. That's a pretty cool feat. Um, what were there any other specific challenges you guys faced beyond that kind of that last little integration push, getting the code all approved and stuff?
Not at all. Not at all. Vercel is like
Nice.
a great platform. We use it all the time.
Yeah, nice.
I can't really picture a better time than the last 2 years to be creating a video, a tool for video software. I'm curious, kind of, the journey in the last 2 years with, COVID and, also your plans for building out the company in the future.
Absolutely, absolutely. Interestingly, the company started like bang in the middle of COVID. We started October 2020. I mean, it was like crazy. Everybody was working from home, so we started from home. In fact, even right now, we don't have an office. So I mean, 100ms is our office. We all work on 100ms. We don't use anything else. We don't use Zoom or Google Meet. Only 100ms, and that in fact has been really great because I mean we have been able to dog food our product all day, all night, and we've been able to iron out bugs and whatnot, everything, right? So that's that part. I mean, it took us long time to build the product, like almost like 1 year, just to build the product. It's a complex product, right? I think beyond that, we had a product hunt launch. We saw a good response when developers were like pretty excited that it's powerful as well as flexible. So this was the response we got. That because a lot of times, a lot of other SDKs they give you a powerful abstraction, but it is not flexible. Like it's a pre-built kind of experience. And when they saw that UI is totally in their control, but it is still as powerful as other SDKs, the response was amazing. So now, right now, we are working with like almost like 100 plus companies where we are integrating with them. A lot of them are already live. So I would say good traction with the developer community. Now we are kind of trying to set up our enterprise motion also. The enterprise motion is slightly different, as you guys also, LogRocket also must have gone through that. It's slightly different journey. So now we are kind of working on that part where we are hiring our GTM teams, we are hiring our sales teams. So that's how it is progressing, Kate.
Awesome. And we'll include the links to your pages for hiring in our show notes. Is there anything that else you would like to point our listeners to or that they should go check out?
Like the only thing I would love is from the listeners is feedback. I mean, we thrive on developer feedback. Everything we have done so far, designing our APIs, designing all of these interfaces is by listening to our customer, and we just love listening to developers what they want to build, and also when they built it, what kind of issues they had, what they didn't, what they liked and not liked. So that'll be my biggest request. Try it, and we'd love your feedback.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll include the link to the website in our show notes. And thank you so much for coming on, and we will see you around.
Thank you, Kate. Thank you, Noel.